All right, so today we are bridging between economics and civics, and what that starts with is how our political system operates. So the way to think about this is how money is used in our political process. So these are the key terms which you should already have down, so I'm not going to spend any time on these. And most of these we're going to go over, so I don't need to explain them any further. So same as usual, you got 2 minutes, start writing, and then I'll explain, and you can continue writing as I explain. All right, so just a couple of quick things about public opinion. So with public opinion, what we are really talking about here is about what the American citizens think about particular issues. So there's some things that you might get a majority of Americans to agree on, others they are split evenly, and others everyone has a different opinion about it. So you have a small percentage of Americans, each with a different opinion on a specific topic. So how are those opinions influenced? So the main factors are items that some are fairly understandable or fairly obvious. Others are not so much because you don't actually understand them. So the main things that influence or form your opinions, first is being your family and friends. Second is your education. So like the kind of school that you go to, the kind of teachers that you have, what information they expose to you and what they keep from you. Your social group, so outside of your friends, like if you're involved in a team or you're involved in some other organization, they can give you information that shapes your opinion. Then there is mass media, which we'll get into in a second, and propaganda, which we'll get into on the next slide. So mass media in this case is anything that you would consume electronically for you all, and analog or physically, like a book, that would influence the way that you think about things. So that the old methods are books, magazines, news reports, whether that's online or on television. Movies can influence your opinions. Television, whether that's streaming or on just regular TV. Most of you all, I would assume, don't listen to talk radio, but that still is something that shapes opinions. Even now, those are online video casts or podcasts would take that place, as well as various different internet sites, whether that's actually on the internet itself or as an app on your phone. All of those can shape your opinions by either giving you factual information or by giving you somebody else's opinion that you might agree with. Or in this day and age, the big thing that is pervasive throughout social media apps, which is people getting misinformation. So somebody either making it up or giving you wrong information that they received and present it in a way that looks to be true. All right, you got 2 minutes again. Just take the 2 minutes, write down as much as you can, and then you can continue writing as I explain. Okay, so outside of the other factors that we talked about, propaganda is a very big thing in shaping opinions. And we're going to get into the different types here, and those should be sort of self-explanatory depending on where you actually get your information and your news from. So propaganda is always going to be biased information, meaning that it is information that somebody's giving you in order to make you think a particular way. So they're giving you something that is based on their ideas or their beliefs, not necessarily based in fact. So while their beliefs or ideas might have come from information that they believe to be fact, they're not presenting it to you in an actually like source-related material. So, but there are different types of this propaganda. Now, before we get into that, just so that you understand, not all types of not all propaganda is bad. In this case, is that sometimes if it is from sourced material, meaning researched information, then that mode of propaganda can be informative and can shape your opinion, whether it's positive or negative. Now, most of the time, the propaganda that you encounter, though, is going to be on the negative side, is that it's going to be somebody who is presenting unfounded beliefs and ideals in what appears to be a factual manner. So the way that that breaks down is that you have these categories that you should have written down already. So there's a testimonial. A testimonial is pretty much when anybody gets up and they tell their side of a story. So right now you have, for instance, the hostages being released from the Israeli-Hamas conflict. They're giving their testimonial about what their experience was being captured by Hamas and the terrorists in the Gaza Strip. So that's a testimonial. So it's a personal experience. Nobody can really fact check it because that person is just stating what they went through. And so it can sway people either in a positive way or a negative way. You have bandwagon. So that's pretty much, and the easiest explanation of this is that, say like a celebrity that you follow or that you like, and they come out and they talk about a particular issue that they are passionate about. And then all of a sudden that becomes an issue that you become passionate about. That's what bandwagoning is. So a lot of times you'll see this, you'll see it in the next presidential election. You'll have various different celebrities, from top tier celebrities to bottom tier celebrities, come out and support one of the candidates. And the idea is that if you like that particular celebrity, you will tend to vote their way if you are a bandwagoner. Then there's name calling. That's pretty simple. That's where either political organizations or organizations in general come out and they call an individual or a politician a specific name. Usually it's something to instill fear. So again, getting into the next presidential election, you will hear words like socialists or communists, and even like raising taxes, things like that, to label somebody as doing something wrong. Then you have glittering generalities, and the easiest way of this is it's something very vague. So that might you might hear that when a politician says that, you know, therefore the common man, and they leave it at that. They don't explain what common man they're talking about, or if they're talking about a common man in the rural areas of the United States or in the urban areas of the United States, or so on and so forth. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole there. But that's what they mean by generalities. It's something very vague that's supposed to make people feel as if they like a particular politician. Then there's the plain folks appeal, which is, it's when you see a politician trying to do something that an everyday person would do. So this can range from, as pictured here, when you have a politician who's going through disaster cleanup after a disaster in their home state, or even too, when you see, particularly, again, in the next presidential election cycle, you'll see a lot of these candidates going around to people's homes, or they're going into local diners and, you know, having a drink, or, you know, literally eating a piece of pie. And it's to make them look as if they're everyday people, even though most everybody knows that they're not. And then finally, there's card stacking. So that's something that is pictured down in the bottom right, where you have, it kind of goes with the name calling, but it's where you essentially put a bunch of labels on a particular individual, again, to instill fear or for people to hate that particular individual. So for example, in the bottom right corner, you have a modern day politician and Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. And in just a very simple tweet, he's not only being called a socialist, he's also being compared to Hitler, which are two negative things. So they're card stacking negatives onto Senator Bernie Sanders in order for people to not listen to his ideas or not elect him to higher office. So a lot of the information that politicians and political campaigns get on which direction or which type of propaganda to use is done through polling. And polling is a survey in its most simple terms, but it's a survey to targeted groups of people. So this happens all the time, whether people approve of a president's performance in office, or what kind of issues are trending in an election year, so that politicians know what to go out and talk to people about. So in this case, though, we're not talking about, it's not a large sample of citizens. So we're not talking about saying the 350 million people that live in the United States. They're not polling 300 million people. They're only polling a few people here and there, meaning like, 50 to 100. And most of the time they're targeting specific demographics, whether it's people in particular income brackets or people of different races and ethnicities, to see how they feel about specific things. So most of the time, polls are just to indicate where things are trending. They're not to be taken as cold, hard facts. So for example, right now you have President Biden is polling very low in his job approval. So now many people might look at that and kind of go along, and it shapes their opinion. And they go, well, if those people are saying he's doing a bad job, he must be doing a bad job. But then at the same time, if you understand how polling works, then you would understand that they might only be asking people in particular states that might be voting in the next month or so in the first round of primaries. And they're not actually asking a wide range of individuals. So it may or may not reflect whether or not President Joe Biden can actually be reelected. And that's what we mean by they can change and alter the opinions of the public. If you see that somebody has like a 5% approval rating, you're probably not going to think highly of that person. But if you do see them polling very high, say in another poll they might be showing it, so they have 60 or 70% job approval rating, then you might change your opinion and say, well, they're doing a good job. So how do you avoid falling into these traps of propaganda that's done by mass media and by political campaigns, and by not falling victim to just changing your mind quickly when you see a new poll? And this should be obvious in this class, which is you have to be educated. And the other item is to review sources that these people are talking about. This really goes to the social media aspect, or what you might see on Instagram or TikTok if somebody's doing some sort of diatribe or giving you a quick video about what they think about a particular topic. And in that is that if they don't provide material for you to double check, you might want to question that and not take on their opinions. If they do provide you material, or say this is where they got this idea from or that idea, then you can go ahead and double check on that and see if they're actually getting that information from valid sources or from other crackpots. And then that's the last part, is that you have to understand where the information is coming from. If it's somebody recording a video in their, sitting in their living room, they may not be the person that you need to finalize your opinion about something on. Now, if it's somebody who has done the research, who can cite you everything that where they found that information from and they've put together their opinion on, then that might be somebody that you can trust. But you have to understand where that information is coming from. And that's all we have for today.